Hello, everyone. Welcome to Sound of Hope News. And the title is about in the Biden's finger on the nuclear weapon button, and somebody's asking him to take his hands off that. This never happened. Okay, this is something really unprecedented. So what does that mean? Biden is asked by his people, his party people, not to touch the nuclear weapon button. Where does that come from? What's the reason for that? Okay, and what's the story behind it? That's what we'll bring to you attention in the beginning. And also, two Democrat Congresspeople wrote a letter to the platform, satellite, cable, and streaming service company, asking them to take the conservative media off the cable, off the satellite. And so what kind of response did they generate? Actually, as the result, the two Congresspeople, they seems to be sort of under siege. So how did that happen? Okay, and also, as we all know, that 5 people died in the January 6th, the Capitol Hill riot, and the police was, the story goes in the impeachment trial, the police was hit with by a fire extinguisher. Okay, he was hurt and he died. But the media report today by Daily Mail saying that that's not the case. So how did he die? Okay, the final one, Pompeo wrote a letter on the coronavirus. And what is his point at this time? What is he trying to say? Finally, what are we looking up to at the upcoming CPAC, the Conservative Political Action Conference in Florida? That's what I'll bring to you. I'm your host, Wei Fang from San Francisco and California. This is my co-host.
And I'm Kathy Zhang. How are you?
All right. Remember, click the like. Thank you very much. And, you could learn to this. Unsubscribe and resubscribe. That way, you are going to get the notification as we see that it seems that, we're being suppressed. Anyway, okay, let's move on into the first piece of news. It's very, very interesting, okay? So today, Washington Times and, published an article about a California representative, Democrat, Jimmy Panetta, and he led an effort with the more than 30 Democrat Congresspeople, and with a letter to Biden, and the letter asked him to relinquish his control on the U.S. nuclear arsenal launch button. Okay, as we all know that's the football, right? Mm-hmm. The nuclear, weapon football. And we always got some officials carrying, I think it's a Marine, carry this football, this suitcase, small suitcase, where the president is able to press and launch the nuclear missile. This started, of course, as we all remember, if you are of certain age, starting the Cold War, right? In the Cold War time, it's all about nuclear missile flying in. How do you react? Are you able to react fast enough? Usually, just within 1 hour, the first round of war is over. Okay, you have no time to call a meeting and consult people and then, mobilize your army and so on and so forth, right? So the president was given this nuclear launch button where they can respond right away. Every president, I think Kennedy, Ford, and Reagan, and Bush, and and Clinton, everybody has that button, right? And wow, I never heard that. People are asking, President, can you take your hands off that thing? And what's the reason? Okay, let's say what's the reason.
What's the reason? Well, in the letter, there's something they wrote about saying past presidents have threatened to attack other countries with nuclear weapons or exhibited behavior that caused other officials to express concern about the president's judgment. Okay, so here we go.
Do you concur? Because many of you has been around for for a while, right? And one readers of this article on the Washington Times and wrote this, and he said, does he mean since Harry Truman? I must have missed all those past presidents threatening nuclear war. Who did that? We don't remember. But the closest shot, I would say, is Kennedy, right? It's because when Soviet moved their missiles into Cuba, and he was, ready to ready to take action, but probably it won't be a nuclear attack on the Cuba, right? It's a military invasion, and nobody was worrying anything about any president abuse that button, that football, and why this is the issue. Okay.
Well, yeah. The other, one is the nuclear threat, and the other is the concern about the president's judgment. Well, what we know is
what you're talking.
Yeah, and the most recent time was Nancy Pelosi expressed such concern, right? Just in January. She talked to the
President
joint.
Trump.
Yeah, referring to President Trump.
It's worrying about President Trump.
Yeah, now they are actually referring to President Biden. Why? So, I remembered an interview.
And they're asking this. Let me, plug in this fact. And the letter also said, what's the solution they're looking for? Okay, they said it's better for President Biden to share this nuclear button with the Vice President and the Speaker of the House. So they all
share the power.
Yeah, share
basically.
the power. They all have to agree before the button can be pressed. And the letter also said, yes, a president always have someone to consult before pressing that button. But however, he said, through this not original word but rough meaning. However, the president can still single-handedly make that decision, and the army and the military shall obey, because defined by the law, if it does not consult someone and press that button, the military have to follow through. So that's show their concern. And you're asking, so what's that concern come from?
Yeah, so we can understand why Speaker Pelosi wanted this button to be removed from Trump, right? Well, we understand that, but why they are concerned about Biden? So actually, a few months ago, that's actually before the election. That's back in last October. I had an interview with Professor Hansen from the Hoover Institute, and he talked about something. At that time, we were talking about the upcoming election and how he compares the two candidates. And the one thing he mentioned, he was talking about he feels that at that time, candidate Biden won't be able to make his own decisions. And let's see why he thinks so.
But you know what? When Biden's elected, he's not going to be around very long. Harris is going to be president sooner than later, and our agenda is going to be in there. And everything you're on the street wanting, a wealth tax, 70% income tax, get rid of PAC the court, we're going to get it all for you. So keep at it. And that's why Joe Biden is incapable of saying, stop this violence.
Yeah, so Professor Hansen was mentioning about those leftists, behind Biden's candidacy, was talking about that. And then he also predicted something if Biden is elected.
And Biden, he's a hot air balloon, and they've inflated him, and the carriage underneath is Marxism and socialism, and his job is to float over the finish line, and then the day after the election, they'll deflate him, and everybody until Election Day, November 3rd, will say, Joe Biden is so impressive, he's so healthy, he's up to speed, he only had to do Zoom interviews because of the virus. The moment he's elected, those same people will be leaking to the New York Times, we're startled that Joe's lost a step. We had no idea that he was impaired. Oh my gosh, this is really serious. We might have to evoke the 25th Amendment. Maybe Kamala Harris might have to be president. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's he's foretelling something, right? And it's just for us to stay and see, whether that would turn true. And among the comments that beneath the article, Washington Times, I just read a few to you. And one reader said, the smell of dementia is in the air. And the other said, that was quick. Next, the 25th Amendment. And still the next one is what I just read to you. He said, does it mean since Harry Truman, I must have missed all those past presidents threatening the nuclear war. So interesting enough, okay, when I first was checking this news, because we are journalists, right? When we see a piece of things, we double check and even triple check. I couldn't find the source of that letter. Okay, I went to the congressman's website. He published all his policies and his statement. There's no such letter there. I said, did the Washington Times got it wrong? Okay, and then I just searched at Google, and you can Google now. Maybe you can find some more. But earlier in the afternoon, when I Google, in the last 5 hours when I Google, I find no news about this. No news. No leftist mainstream news on this matter. Only Washington Times until I guess half hour ago, Fox.
1 hour.
Yeah, 1 hour. Fox pick it up. So, this guy grouped 30, his colleagues, congressional people, right? And wrote this very serious letter to Biden. And he does not put it on his website. And nobody's reporting that. What's going on there? Isn't that interesting? Right, so that's just my question. You can also guess why so. What they are trying to do, in such a, low profile or quiet way. But it seems the news is breaking. I think now the political maybe pick it up too. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see this unfold. But yeah, if we judge by common sense, it's not hard to tell why they wrote that letter. Right, we all know what's going to be unfolding down the road. We'll see how that went and how that would happen.
Okay. All right. So let's go to the next piece of news. Again, those are from our House, right? House representatives. 2 congressmen, a Congress representative from California, wrote a letter to 12 companies, the television, cable providers, and streaming companies. And basically, the letter was to ask those companies, pressure them to combat disinformation. That's what's their theme. But actually, if you read into that, they basically want those companies to deplatform 3 of the right-leaning television companies, Fox, Newsmax, and OAN. Although, some of you may think Fox, no longer is the previous Fox, but
no longer needs to be deplatformed.
Right, but still in this letter, these 3 media companies are listed specifically. So, and then the 2 Congress representatives, one is Anna Eshoo from Bay Area, and the other is Jerry McNerney from the East Bay, all from Northern California. And then the Subcommittee on Communications and the Technology of the Committee on Energy and Commerce did a hearing today. And the hearing's theme title is Fanning the Flames, Disinformation and Extremism in the Media. So, it seems very serious, right? So what's in that letter? We can take a look what's in the letter. Basically, they just list out how dangerous it is. And for example, there's a couple examples I wanted to show you. If we can just show the letter. See, it's using the online platform suspended and demonetized OAN's channel online because it was spreading the COVID-19 disinformation. Use that as a proof. Okay, the other proof is Newsmax has amplified allegation that the Chinese members of Chinese Communist Party helped to develop the COVID-19 vaccine. Okay, so when I saw the Chinese Communist Party member information was also on it, and they deemed that is a dangerous thing to for Newsmax to report that. It's kind of shocking to me. And then they requested those 12 companies to answer half dozen of questions, maybe less than 10 questions by March 8th. The first question is that you need to tell us what kind of a moral and principle values, ethnic principles, that you decide to carry those companies. Mm-hmm. So it sounds very good, right? But but if you think of it, on what ground they can ask that?
Yeah, let's take a look of the responses. And Kevin McCarthy, which is the House Minority Leader, he said, Democrats are trying to give themselves the power to dictate what you can read and watch in your own home. He said there are members of the Congress using their official position to coerce and control the information Americans can watch and access in their own home. All right, and he compared that letter to China, explaining that an individual there may have the means to travel, but it may not be allowed for criticizing the government. Well, I thought about the barking dog. You remember that? You know,
Yeah,
a China
the barking
dog
dog.
today have great dog food and a great dog house, but still want to sneak into America at this time because occasionally he also want to bark. And in China, you don't got to bark, even you got all the other material things. So this is a slipping slope, a slope that we are standing on. And Alan Dershowitz, the Harvard professor, let me tell you his point of view. And I think he said the two Congress people, they ignore the provision of the Bill of Rights, which prohibit the Congress from making any law or taking any action that abridges the freedom of speech. And he cited a author or columnist, I don't know whether you remember his name. His name is William Sapphire. He said, as William Sapphire once put it, every American has the right to complain about the trash on TV, except Uncle Sam. Uncle Sam is the last person, is the least person who can speak, who could and would do this. And then he said that the government has no business being in their news or editorial rooms. The First Amendment protects them from such unconstitutional intrusion.
Yeah, and let's also look at some of the other representatives, and quite a few of them just all feel that this type of, although namely as this like fighting disinformation, but they feel that censorship actually really similar to the Chinese Communist Party ruling. So let's take a look at a video clip of she's a House Energy and Commerce Ranking Member Kathy Rogers from Washington. So let's watch.
Oh, we need a sound. We need a
voice.
sound.
The New York Times should be concerned by the majority's actions. And anyone who values free speech and a free press should be worried. Elected officials using their platform to pressure private companies to censor media outlets they disagree with? That sounds like actions from the Chinese Communist Party, not duly elected representatives of the United States Congress. Here we cherish free speech and a free independent press. We believe in dialogue and in the battle of ideas. Rather than censure and silence constitutionally protected speech, the answer is more speech. That's the American way.
Yeah, and also there are quite a few professors or scholars. They did a testimony at the hearing today. So wanted to share with you a couple of clips from Professor Jonathan Turley. He's a professor with George Washington University Law School. So let's watch.
The question is, who will be the arbiter of truth in any public or private regime of speech regulation? The First Amendment limits the ability of the government to regulate or censor speech. Accordingly, the United States has been spared a history of a state media like China or Iran.
Yeah, and let's continue.
But to be honest, from the perspectives of free speech and the free press, the letter is not just chilling, it's positively glacial. I admit that I may be a relic in my views, but I continue to believe that the greatest protection against bad speech is better speech. Those seeking limits often speak of free speech like it's a swimming pool that must be monitored and carefully controlled for purity and safety. I view it more as a rolling ocean. It is indeed dangerous, but it's also majestic and inspiring. Its immense size allows for a natural balance. Free speech allows false ideas to be challenged in the open rather than driving dissenting viewpoints beneath the surface. However, free speech, like other constitutional values, requires a leap of faith a faith not only in free speech, but in each other. Citizens are capable of educating and informing themselves. They do not need politicians or corporate filters to protect them from speech false or inciting. Roughly 70 years ago, Justice William Douglas warned that the restriction of free speech is the most dangerous of all subversions. It is the one un-American act that could easily defeat us all. Some of the measures being discussed this week have the potential to defeat us all.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so Jonathan Turley.
Yeah, so I don't know how you think about that. I think in China we're way too familiar with such, but in this country, being here for 30 years, I never seen anything like this before. I never seen any Congress people dare to write a letter like this. I don't know, maybe I missed something before. I never saw anything like this before. And once this kind of thing happened, okay, in my experience, seeing how Chinese communism, Communist Party, how they work, how they move up the ladder, try to grab more things, is the test water effort. If they write a letter, if the response is not strong enough, they're gonna say, okay, we can continue doing this. Just think about that, right? For those 12 satellite cable and streaming service company, how would they feel, right? They would feel if we don't abide, if we don't comply, maybe they're gonna give us a hard time when we need to bid some frequency or things like that. So it is not strictly legally speaking, those two Congress people, they're not censoring speech on those three medias, but they indirectly ask those platform companies to censor it. So that's to censor it. So that's the problem, right? It is a outright violation of the Constitution, and this is the people we elect into the Congress who is violating our Constitution. And at a situation like this, the public response needs to tremendously strong, in my opinion. Okay, going through my experience from China and in the U.S., we all need to write letter to these two Congress people, even we don't live in their district. We need to write letter to these two people. One is Anna Eshoo, it's actually the congressman of the Silicon Valley. Another is McNerney. It's not hard to find them out, write a letter, write the email to them saying that we don't approve this, you are being unconstitutional. We need to speak strongly because their action is to see how much people care. If the public does not have an outcry here, does not have a strong outcry there, the only people who would feel the chilling would be those 12 platform companies. And they will learn to, they will be trained to take action, to sort of keep a distance with those conservative media and eventually maybe deplatform them.
Yeah, even though you may not, you may not like Fox anymore, or
Right.
you have some opinions against other, mentioned media platforms and media outlets. But really, just like the Congresswoman Rogers said, even those journalists from MSNBC or New York Times, they should be worried about that because this is come to everyone. It's not just come to certain type of people who with different opinions.
If there are liberal people or leftist people watching this program, just hear me out, okay? We went through the China. So what would happen in the typical kind of this so-called struggle, okay, political struggle, when the liberal win over the conservative people? Let's say, God forbid, okay? But if that happen, what would happen is they're gonna have internal fighting, okay? They're gonna fight immediately because it's power driven, right? The agenda is for the power. So they're gonna have internal fighting. Such thing happened in Soviet Union and to the CCP, to the CCCP, which is Soviet Union and the CCP. Line of people were purged, and they were very, very cruelly, just terminated. And that's what will happen. So Martin Luther King said this: justice somewhere, injustice somewhere, is injustice everywhere. So.
Yeah, and also just according to our own experience, those leftist communists, they won't think for something is enough, okay? Because we now see is how they try to push those Democrats. If you are so-called moderate Democrats, they will try to push you over to more left. If you're already left, they will push you to the hard left. Okay, they won't stop somewhere and say, okay, enough. No. And just take an example. We talked to you about, report to you about the renaming issue in San Francisco School District, right? So actually, besides those among those 44 schools, public schools, they wanted to rename, mostly they are named after the previous presidents. One of them actually was named after Dianne Feinstein. Okay, it's Dianne Feinstein Elementary School. But those people who want to rename this school's name because saying, oh, Dianne Feinstein, 37 years ago, she said something, now deemed to be racism. Okay? So Dianne Feinstein, you can see, okay, she's Democrats, more and more towards the left, but they don't feel it's enough. So they are not only come after certain people and to a certain extent, they just gonna push all the way, okay, to the place that you don't want to be there. So just don't feel it's not my business. It is everybody's business.
Yeah. It will come to you. And in the typical the communist regime, they have this called alliance, right? Alliance, how to say? Alliance means people who give the allegiance to their leader. Okay. On the top there, you got this group. Each top leader have their alliance. Okay. And then they're gonna keep fighting this group of people. Okay. Once they purge someone, all his line of people will be gone. Okay, they will be removed, they'll be persecuted, and they could be shot. All right. So for you, even you are so much devoted to the Communist Party, you don't know which line you are in. You could take the wrong line. It happened all the time. You couldn't make sure that you are in the right line because you don't know what's the result of that fight. Inside fighting up there. So nobody's safe. It's a very, very scary place to live. Okay, in your daily life, even you are in the party. So basically, that's why that we do approve that the culture of America and the principle the country is based upon. Just like the professor just said, right?
Yeah.
It is not to decide what kind of speech is right or bad, good or bad. Have an ocean. With enough speech, the bad speech will show. The good speech will stand out, will win. So that's the American way.
Yeah, and
let's keep it that way.
Yeah, and he said we don't need a filter from the government or from the corporate. We should have the leap of faith, believing that the American people can, have a dialogue, have a discussion, and make their own judgment. That's why, America's great, and why immigrants like us come here, enjoy the life here, and want to continue it to be this way. So really, it's an important issue.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, so now let's move on to the next topic, which is I think it's very worth talking about. It's talking about the death of the policeman of the Capitol Police, and his name is Brian Sicknick. How he died. Okay, let me tell the storyline. Let me tell the complete storyline. Before we got there, let me say first we know that 5 people passed away. Okay, 1 was probably trampled to death. 2 may have the heart attack, and they just pass away during that incident. 1 was shot to death, and this is as we all know, an Air Force veteran, Ashley Babbitt from San Diego. Mm-hmm. She was shot to death when she tried to scale a window. Somebody just without being violent, she was just shot to death. And then the 5th one is the policeman, the Capitol policeman, Brian Sicknick. Okay, let me just roll back the timeline and lead to today. The reason is Daily Mail interviewed his mother, 74-year-old lady, and his father, 81-year-old lady. They got the first-hand information, and that's why I want to give you back the complete picture. On that day, on January 6th, okay, media report came out right away saying that a policeman was killed, and the Capitol Police issued a statement right away and denied that, saying that no, the policeman was in life support. It's being in the hospital. All right. So and then later the second day, the Sicknick passed away. Okay. So the Capitol Police issued a report, a statement. This is the original word of the statement. Officer Brian Sicknick passed away due to injuries sustained while on duty. Just hear me out. Didn't say much. It's very vague, okay? It's all encompassing. Didn't explain exactly how he passed away. He passed away due to injuries sustained while on duty, all right? So there was a media report about then on the second day, on January 8th, the New York Times published a report, quote, pro-Trump supporters overpowered Mr. Sicknick, 42, and struck him in the head with a fire extinguisher, according to 2 law enforcement officials. With a bloody gush in his head, Mr. Sicknick was rushed to the hospital and placed on life support. Oh, that seems to give the detail. Now we know what happened. Okay. However, the chief of communications for DC Department of Fire and Emergency Medical Service, and his name is Douglas Buchanan, and he said Sicknick was not rushed to the hospital from the Capitol, but he returned to his division department. Okay, and Sicknick's own brother, his name is Ken Sicknick, he spoke with a media called ProPublica, and he said his brother, after the riot, he was in good spirit and has texted him after returning to his department. And the brother Ken said, he texted me that last night and said, I got the pepper sprayed twice. And he said the Brian, he was in good shape. All right? So then his father, Charles Sicknick, told Reuters on the January 7th that they were notified that he was in the hospital. And so they rushed from their home in New Jersey to DC. The family was told Sicknick had a blood clot on his brain and has suffered a stroke. He was being kept alive on the ventilator, but before they arrived, he passed away. Okay, so now the fact has been clear, and after the riot, he returned to his department, and then he inhaled, the pepper spray. Then later, for some reason, he had to be sent to the hospital, and over there put on life support, and before his parent arrived, he passed away. All right, so so this is the detail. Okay, this is found out by Daily Mail. And the Daily Mail wrote that it was the unattributed account of the brutal attack. I'm sorry, this is not detail. He said less than 24 hours after his death, with no autopsy, no confirmation of any sign of blunt trauma, no investigation, nor due process. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi called for the perpetrators of Sicknick's attack to be brought to justice and vowed, "We will not forget." All right? So on January 10th, which is 4 days later, the footage of a protester hurling a fire extinguisher into law enforcement on the steps of the Capitol became public. Okay? But that video didn't show that it hit Sicknick, but that footage was made public. Then 4 days later, all right, and retired Philadelphia firefighter Robert Sanford is identified as the rioter who threw the fire extinguisher. Okay, and then, but that wasn't a link to the Sicknick. And then on February 2nd, CNN, February 2nd, hear me out, CNN report that investigators are vexed by the lack of evidence and that medical examiners have found no sign of blunt force trauma. All right, this is on the 2nd of February. All right, and then on the same day, Democratic House impeachment managers filed their pre-trial brief and state as the following: the insurrectionist killed a Capitol police officer by striking him on the head with a fire extinguisher. This happened with the House impeachment paper. Okay, and this was read in the chamber of the Congress in the Senate. All right. On the February 16, New York Times updated its January 6 report stating, new information has emerged regarding the death of the Capitol Police officer Brian Sicknick that questions the initial cause of his death provided by officials close to the Capitol Police. All right, they retracted. They said that was wrong. Then on February 17th, his mother told the Daily Mail his son was not killed by a blow to the head, but died of a stroke. And the medical examiner has yet to release the cause of death. So basically, as of now, the mother and the father are waiting for how he died. They got no response. They're still in the dark. This is 49 days. This is 49 days after the death. There's no accountability. There's no result. There's no finding. They are still waiting in the dark. They don't know what happened to their son. Their guess is he got a stroke. Okay, so why I spend so much time narrating, telling you so much detail is that I do want to ask you guys a question, because I promised to my Chinese audience that I want to ask you this question. I try to get some answer here. All right. So as you know that in this riot, other than the three other people, there's two very, very outstanding, tragedies, right? The one is Ashley Babbitt. Ashley Babbitt was shot to death. We saw the video. And Sicknick, he died. In both cases, there's no investigation as of now. There's no investigation. Okay, in such a high-profile issue involving the impeachment of the President of the United States of America. There's no result, no accountability, who shot them, and how they died. And the parents even don't know how their son died. They don't know. They're still waiting as of now, 49 days. Are they going to wait another 50 days, the result will come? Or somebody already dropped the ball? For someone who just shot the Babbitt, who tried to scale the window just because of that, who is that person who pulled the trigger? Shouldn't we look into that? Shouldn't the police look into that? Shouldn't the FBI look into that? And if they don't, shouldn't enough congresspeople pound on the table saying that I want investigation? You tell me who that person is and what is his basis? Did he break law or not? Why does nothing like that? Two people died just like nothing happened.
Yeah, actually, there's a hearing. There was a hearing yesterday to try to find out what happened on the January 6th, but none of these two questions were raised during the process. So that's something worth just looking into that, right? Think about why such cases and people died, but yet this police officer died was actually used. The original report of that was cited in the article of impeachment. So actually today I had the pleasure to interview one of the President Trump's impeachment defense lawyers, Mr. David Schoen. So I actually asked him about this issue because it's in the news about how why why Brian Sicknick was died, like what the reason just people don't know, but it was cited as evidence in the impeachment article. So let's watch how he responds to that.
I think what that reflects is exactly the point I tried to make during the trial. That is, they said, this is a fact-intensive case. You need to consider all the facts. But they acknowledged that we didn't know the facts in the case. That's part of the problem with no rules of evidence, no due process. They could say anything they wanted, and there was no way to challenge the integrity or the credibility of their evidence. And what I said first and foremost, and this is why I think Senator McConnell was wrong to say afterwards that he felt Donald Trump was responsible, but he didn't think there was jurisdiction. Nobody can say that. If you have a so-called trial and you don't have the real facts in front of you, you can't come to any conclusion that someone is guilty. That's not the way our system works. We know now that there's so much more evidence out there, evidence of advanced knowledge to the Capitol Police. The Sergeant of Arms, apparently working for Speaker Pelosi, rejected the information they were given. The FBI appears to have dropped the ball. We know now that there's some evidence of pre-planning for an agenda having nothing to do with Donald Trump. All of that's all relevant to this. There has to be an investigation, but in our country, at least, We have the investigation first and then the trial, not the trial and the investigation. That's how it worked in Alice in Wonderland, but that's not where we are. So you're right. These are important facts. And that was an important fact that came out, but only after the case, after everyone was convinced of another scenario.
And also in yesterday's hearing, actually one piece of, you can take it as evidence surfaced was that there was actually FBI got some intel information right before, the day before January 6th. And it was said that it was reported by Washington Post. They wrote an email to the Washington, D.C. Metropolitan Police. But then the former police chief was on the hearing. He just said he didn't know about it. Okay, beforehand. Now he knew it. But he replied that, this email only sent to like a low-level person and then didn't go any further. So, but then, this is a really important piece of information, intel information, why it didn't, how FBI handled this, how the Metropolitan Police handled this, we don't know. So, and I then still, ask Mr. Sean about how he viewed this.
Terrible stuff. We have no idea still all of the issues that came up. All they were looking to do was pin it all on Donald Trump, no matter what the facts actually were. That's what that so-called trial was about. If you want to get to the facts, have a real investigation now and, get those responsible. That's what accountability is. They claimed we needed this trial for accountability. That wasn't accountability. That was just your excuse to try to attack Donald Trump one more time.
Yeah, so he, actually during the hearing yesterday, they indeed actually tried to pin this again, this FBI's intel information, how it obviously it failed to reach to the top of the police, Capitol Police, right? But they still try to pin this down on Trump, saying, at that time, January 5th, January 6th, right? The chief, the commander-in-chief, still Donald Trump.
Yeah. So let me ask my question, the question that I promised to my Chinese audience that I want to get from you, okay? For issues like this, okay, Ashley Babbitt and Brian Sicknick, how they died. We got to get to the bottom of this. I'm a first-generation immigrant, all right? I wasn't born here, okay? But I live in this country for long enough. I lived here for 31 years. In my knowledge, just think about in the 90s, when something like this happened, okay? Media will just rush to it. There was a few major reports. The politicians have to react. The Capitol Police have to react. The FBI have to come up with a thorough report. All this does not happen, okay? And why? Why it does not happen? The first, of course, I know why it happened. Why it does not happen, okay? The deep state, they don't want to move. They don't want to take a move. But when they decide not to make a move, there's no public outcry. Okay, let me read this paragraph, okay? This speech by Representative Kathy Rogers from Washington. She said, people are afraid of a woke authoritarian system that is getting them fired, canceled, and ashamed. And so they are being silenced. They have no voice. They cannot trust the broken institutions to protect them. This culture of fear is unjust, and this committee should not be using this committee to force everyone to be the same or be destroyed. All right? So what I read is that people are indeed afraid. Okay? So is it because that people are afraid, so there's no public outcry on this? Or it's because people voiced out. They did their job. They write to their, write to their local journalist or write to the newspaper, the media, and they write to their congresspeople, and there's no response. Their voice cannot be heard. So people dare not send out the voice, or people send out their voice, but they cannot be heard. We got at least 75 million people who are not happy. Where's their voice? They dare not to send it out? Or because they cannot be heard? That's my question to you guys. That's my question to you. I honestly, I don't know. Let me share with you, while you type up your answer there, okay? Is it because people cannot be heard or people don't want to talk? They don't want to talk, it's useless. is scary. So we don't want to take any action. Let me share my opinion, which could be wrong, okay? I think there's a lot of good people in this country, okay? And you live a good life. You live generations of good life. You don't know what communists look like. You don't know their tactic. You don't know how they move. You are you are shocked by their action. You don't know what to do. So you did not do anything. Am I right? Or am I wrong? So if I share with you my opinion, okay, if I'm in your position, if I can replicate myself into 75 million people, what would I do? Okay. In the house, there are at least 202 Republican congressional representatives. In the Senate, there are 50 of them. Let's say we get 90% of them sign a joint letter saying that we want to get to the bottom of this. How did Ashley Babbitt and Brian Sicknick died? We want a thorough report, and we want it today. And somebody set up a website and collect 1 million signatures. I think they have to move, but nobody's doing this. I think it's because of people are either afraid or they don't know what to do. What is the situation? Because if we don't make a move now, if facing such injustice, such ridiculous impeachment, a ridiculous trial, ridiculous whatever result, the mother and the father are still waiting for what happened to their son. They may never receive anything. And the public is just standing by and saying, okay, what can we do? I don't see that's right. Everybody shall pound the table saying, I want a result. I want this until I get it. And the people is the sovereign in the city, right? They are entitled to this. So this is my question. I just honestly want to, because you guys are really grassroots America, all right? You are from different states, Oregon, the South, the East, the West, and some even from Australia and France. Anyway, for those American at least. So for these two cases, somebody was shot to death. This is our Air Force veteran was shot to death. There's no explanation who did it, why he did that. Did he break law or did he not? And indeed, how Sicknick died. Shouldn't we be entitled to an answer to this in such a high-profile case that happened on Capitol Hill? And so, yeah, that's just my question. If you can, please type it up here. What do you think the reason why when FBI and the Capitol Police do not investigate it, then there's no investigation? How can we allow them to take things just into their hand like that? Where's the public opinion? Where's the public outcry? Where's our pressure upon our Congress people who will be pressing them? Why no action? That's my question.
There are some answers here I saw.
Okay.
Somebody say it's both. It's both reasons.
Okay.
And one said, I think that's Louis said, 25% of Americans are asleep. So just not aware of what's going on or don't care. Piggy bank living. That's from Bobo Logic.
Okay. Anyway, so I think what happened now is a blessing in disguise, because this is really just vivid lesson in front of us, teaching us how to recognize socialism and communism and their tactics. As we learn enough, we know how to react. We will figure it out. And so that's my opinion, for today.
And Doug Watson said, I agree, the people should demand explanation from their representatives.
Yeah, like Anna Eshoo, right? Anna Eshoo and McNerney. Remember, they wrote these two letters to these 12 companies. They should get 12,000 letters from people to them saying that what kind of nonsense are doing. You are being unconstitutional. You are just violating our constitution. And I want you to know that we take note, and we remember that.
And we want you to retrieve that.
Yeah, if everybody responds like that, they won't dare to take a second step. If we don't, they're going to take second step and third step and the fourth step. They're going to do that. So the good people, the real Americans, have to respond, take action. Take action, write to them, write to your own congressional people. Even he's a Democrat, he's still American. he's destroying our Constitution. So I just I don't know. I hope I don't sound any condescending. No, I'm not at least. Okay, I just think that we need to respond strongly, and I just don't know why there's not enough. Because we are taking here, this YouTube in certain sense is also risky. Let it be. We do what is right. That's good people's moral. So if everybody's like this, I think they cannot take a few more steps. They'll be stopped.
Yeah, and previously, when I was covering the election activity last year, and I saw this the phenomenon. Because usually in the United States, we always hear something called the silent majority, right? So people are used to, okay, I'm a silent majority. I don't voice out, but I can vote, can voice by my vote. And this time, last year's election, a lot of people realized, you even though you think that way, but the reality has changed. And now it's just coming to, they're just coming for more and more. So what do? You still keep just being sad, upset, or don't care. I remember the one email that I received from our audience. So I'm not sure if he's there and watching tonight. I remember his name is Matt from Tennessee. Actually, it's a young man really trying to do something. He said that he will try to run for office in the midterm next year. But one thing he mentioned to me, it's kind of, I was struck that he had a girlfriend, but once he decided he wants to do something to fight for the people there, to run for office, actually the girlfriend wanted to break up with him. Said she just doesn't care about those political stuff. So maybe, his girlfriend represent some people right now who just don't realize what we are facing right now, and saying, oh, I don't want to get involved. I don't want you to get involved, But that's probably one of the other, she represents another crowd. But I hope, it's not a lot.
Yeah, I think really there are more good people than bad people in this country. Clearly so. And if they just take action, and things will just change. And but I think indeed, I think because we went through communism, we see how cruel they are. We know that in the future what lies ahead, so we won't hesitate to fight that. Remember in 1949, that's when communists entered Beijing. They took the country away from the nationalist party or nationalist Republic of China. Okay. If everybody know that what would happen in the next few decades, they're gonna fight like hell, like hell. They're gonna stop them, but nobody, they don't know. Okay, the communism with their brutality, they always come with a sugar coating. Okay, people, so maybe they're better, maybe not so bad, and until they take the power and they show their true face. So. I think what I just feel our duty is to let you know that what lies ahead, and the country does not have to go there. Doesn't have to go there, but we need to do something, take things into our own hand, and spread the truth, take action, write letters every day, tell your neighbors, do those little work. People is the solvent, and this is how this country is designed. Common people can take power back. Without a war, without necessarily a war. More people, more good people than bad people in this country, clearly so. All right, okay, that's, I also have some jokes, but I don't think I feel like sharing that now. Maybe another time. Thank you. Yeah, thank you for being with us, hear us out. Please press the likes if you like us. If you don't do it. And unsubscribe and resubscribe. Just take 1 second. And making sure got the ring, got the bell, and I guess that's it. How about that?
Okay, yeah. So we'll see you Friday then.
Friday, yeah. Kathy will be going to the CPAC. We're going to do a lot of reporting. Stay with us. Hang
Yeah, I don't
tight.
know anyone from the audience you are going, can write there. We can try to connect.
Yeah, get connected.
Yeah, so we'll try to do some reporting and interviews there and report to you.
Yeah, we're going to send 5 people there. And with our very tight budget, we still decide to do so because it's a journalist's job. If you can donate to us, thank you very much. Can we just post a donation link there for those of you who feel like supporting us? Okay, thank you. With anything you can do, press the like, and we're very thankful.
Yeah, spread the word about our channel.
Yeah, we'll spread the word. Yeah, let your neighbor know. And all right, thank you.
Great, thank you.
Good night.
Take care.
Until the day after.
Bye-bye.
Bye.